All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to today's special episode. If you didn't catch last week, me and Rob Harris, we had a little conversation about economics and cryptocurrencies and our life in the space. We decided to do another episode today, and we're going to be joined by Joel. So I'm going to let everybody go ahead and introduce themselves. Again, my name is Chris Rice Crypto, and welcome to our show. Go ahead, Rob, introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Rob Harris, and I'm just going to keep it short. For those that know me, I've been involved with crypto since 2013. I started mining Litecoin, which it's doing pretty well, and that's going to be one of the topics we're going to discuss today. But with that being said, I'm going to pass it on to Joel.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me on the show today. It's really nice to see everybody here. I'm Joel Koshoff. I've been working in the space for about 2 years, since 2017. Couple cool things about me. I've been advising 2 projects that actually just got onto Binance's DEX, one of them being Veracity, the other being UND. So that's pretty cool. And the other side of it is I created a trading platform that makes it really easy for people to use and actually trade cryptocurrencies without having all the nuances of Binance not letting you put a stop loss and sell a gain at the same time. So you can do a couple other cool things at the same time. And on top of that, what brought me in this space, I used to be a high school educator for 8 years, and I realized the space needed someone who could explain it in a really easy way for grandma and grandpa and little Johnny to understand. So yeah, that's a bit about me, and I'm ready to get done. Let's do it, boys.
Awesome. So yeah, like I said, I'm Chris Rice Crypto. I'm a crypto enthusiast. I'm an anarchist, a voluntarist, and I like to encourage people to be the change that they want to see in this world. And I do that with something that I call practice change. And cool thing about today's episode, if you didn't catch last week's episode, I encourage you to check it out. It's on me and Rob's channel. Joel has his own channel as well on YouTube. So we're 3 different YouTube content creators coming together, doing a little cross promoting. That way we can reach different audiences, have a little bit of a different perspective on the cryptocurrency space, news, and just general topics. Because what me and Rob found last week is just having, being able to record just some good dialogue allows some other people to be able to learn and hear a different opinion on things, as opposed to like straight format news and just kind of going through all the spiels and stuff like that. So having a conversation like this between people just allows for, to me, like just great energy, a lot of knowledge. And sometimes, we can correct one another and learn things. So I think it's really important what we're doing here. So I do encourage everybody to check out everybody's individual YouTube channel. Make sure you're hitting that like button, as it helps other people to be able to see this content in the YouTube stream. And definitely subscribe to our channels and support what we're doing. So what did you guys want to start off with talking about?
Well, since we were just briefly right before this recorded, we're talking about Litecoin. Figured just out the gate, let's just jump into it.
Okay.
You see what's happening. It's up, I think, 12% today.
Yeah, and it keeps climbing. And people might be wondering what's going on, and if you're catching any news, if you're following any other content creators or anything like that, you know that there is a halvening coming up. And some people may not understand what a halvening is, and we've got an educator in the house. So Joel, you mind explaining what a halvening is, man, since you're a teacher?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. So when, things like Bitcoin were created, and Litecoin is almost exactly a carbon copy of Bitcoin. It's like the silver to the gold, as some may say. It's got a reduction of inflation every 4 years, right? So basically you can mine cryptocurrencies, but every 4 years every time you get a block reward. So how these machines, you've probably seen people in their houses, they have those machines, they crack a code, which is basically math, which started a long time ago at like 2 + 2 = 4. And now it's some crazy quadratic equation times another quadratic equation that you need a massive computer to figure out. And then you get a reward, which is Bitcoin. So it started at 50, and then it went to 25. Now we're at 12.5. Bitcoin's halving is coming up next year, less than a year away, and it'll be 6.25. So the same thing happens with Litecoin. So Litecoin is going to have the same type of halving on August 6th, 2019. And what's going to happen is there's going to be less Litecoin in circulation every single time there's a block is complete. So that means there's going to be not deflationary, but less inflation into the market, which means obviously potentially it could go up in value if people have more demand for it because there'll be less supply. So that's basically what a halvening is.
So the halvening now, from what I remember, is it going from 25 coins to 12.5?
I think this one, I have to double check. I actually can't remember. I know with Bitcoin it's going. Is it 12.5 for Litecoin?
Yeah, it's going to be 12.5.
Because it came after Bitcoin. Yeah, so it should be 12 point. Yeah, so 12.5 Litecoin, which will be, you know, if it's $100 a coin, you get, you know, $1,250 per coin at that point.
Right.
So yeah, so it's a lot less, but obviously less supply equals, you know, potentially an increase in price. But here's the really interesting part about this halvening. If you go back and you actually look, you know, before the halvenings, they always do what Litecoin is actually doing right now. So usually like, you know, a month and a half to 2 months before, actually, sorry, about 3 to 4 months before, you usually see this nice run up, which I fully expected. It's been very much to my prediction so far. And I have my prediction on my chart set out to be between $180 and $190 at the top. But you'd be surprised at where I actually have it starting to come down. A lot of people may think that, you know, the Litecoin halvening is on August 6th, so, you know, it's going to like keep going up after. But generally what ends up happening is people buy into the hype and then sell into the new, buy the hype, sell the news type of a deal. Even though they know it's coming and everyone knows the news already, they still buy the hype. And then usually about 40 to 45 days from my studies, and I've actually posted charts on this in my channel, on my videos that I've done before, usually 40 days before you should start looking to potentially sell. I'm not saying it's financial advice, but it's something that I've started noticing that like 40, 45 days before, usually it starts to get to that toppy point and then it starts to fall. But also if you look at Litecoin right now, its RSI is like at 90, 89, 90. So that doesn't mean it won't go up more. It's just something to take note of that eventually it's going to run out of steam. So.
And there's definitely a lot of hype going on. I mean, it seems like everywhere I look, something about the Litecoin halvening is happening. And even saw somebody, I can't remember the person's name on Twitter, but they posted something to the effect of Litecoin's doing so well that Craig Wright's going to claim to be Charlie Lee.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's definitely being hyped up, and I really feel like it's being hyped up too much, and people are going to be buying in on the hype and buying in on the highs like a lot of people did with Bitcoin back in December 2017 and not educating themselves at all. So it's kind of crazy. So again, none of this is financial advice. We're just kind of like explaining to you what we do in the space and how we roll. And if you decide it's something that you want to incorporate in what you do, that's on you, but it's not financial advice.
Yep.
And yeah, definitely not financial advice. I always tell people anything in the cryptocurrency market right now, just think of it as a glorified casino. You know, we're gambling. But with that being said, I think the low this year for Litecoin was at $28. Is that
22.
correct?
22.
$22.
It got down to 22. Charlie Lee, when he sold in December of 2017, even said he saw it going down to $20. A lot of people were like, no. And he was right on target. I mean, $22 was the bottom. He called 20. And one thing I will say a lot about Charlie Lee is he definitely knows what the hell he's talking about. So people should follow what he says because he makes complete sense. He's very understandable and knowledgeable in his space. He traded gold and silver prior to getting involved in cryptocurrency. And the guy's a freaking genius. So
yeah, he's a futurist too. Like he worked at Google as a futurist for before. Like he sees stuff before. And the funny thing is, you said that he said like if, at $20. He also said if you're in this market and you can't stomach the fact that it could go to $20 before that even happened, then you probably shouldn't even be in this market. And it was really funny because I remember even myself, I'm guilty for it. I'm like, there's no way it's going to go to $20. You know, I was like, that can't happen. It's like $200, like $300, $400. It's going to go $20 again. And he literally called it. And I was like, you know what, maybe it could happen though. But, you know, I was ready for it. And, you know, what's really good about this space, I don't know if you guys have noticed over in the States, but if you go to a conference now, maybe not now, but like 4 months ago, man, you knew every single person at the conference. Like, it's like every one of those moon boys and Lambo boys are gone. some of them are coming back again, but most people that are in the space really know each other now. And so it's become a lot more focused on the tech and where we're going. So that's something really interesting.
So, and I want to get into the tech side of this, but before we move from price, as of today, it's $142. It's up 10% today. And so you're thinking, Joel, that the high is going to be maybe 180 to 190?
Yeah, and like what day is it today? Today is June 12th on my side of the world. So almost the 13th of June. So June 12th on my side of the world, August 6th, it's got maybe a week and a half left, and then we're going to start to see it fall. And I think that when you see FOMO cycles, as we saw in 2017, you're going to see it move a lot in a short amount of time. And I think that right now it's starting to get there, and it may not get to my target, completely honest, but I could see it getting there just because, you know, I was saying like a week ago to some of my guys in my group, I'm like, because I told them to buy, not to buy, but I told them I'm buying at 104 more. I'm adding to my stack. And they're like, really? And I'm like, yeah. And then now they're like, holy crap, where do you see it going? And I remember a week ago, I'm like, $130. And they're like, $130? I was like, yeah. And they're like, nah, it's never going to hit that. And then now it's at 140. And I'm like, holy shit, like that's fast. So
that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts.
For the week, it's up 36%.
Yeah.
And for the day, it's up right over 11% on my blockfolio at 142.36 right now.
Yeah.
So after it peaks and it starts dropping back down, what do you think the next potential low could be for Litecoin?
Oh, I drew a chart. Let me just pull up that chart. I drew a chart just the other day. I'm not going to share it on my screen, but I'll just take a peek at what I wrote.
Like that $70, $80 price range seemed like it had a lot of really good support.
My halving idea here. Let me just open it up.
I'm not a professional trader and just still trying to learn my game myself.
Well, yeah.
So
it was at $70, $80, what, a month ago? How long ago?
But it kind of sat in that area for a little bit. Once it hit over $100, it went back into that area somewhere around like that $78, $77 price.
Mid-March to like March, April. So mid-March to like April, it was sticking around like $60, $70 for a while. And then we had this huge pump with Bitcoin on the 2nd of April. So it went from like $60, $70 to like $100. Then it came back down to like, I think it was like $70. And now we're on this parabolic movement. Like this chart I drew was Bitcoin was Litecoin was $102.17 when I drew it. And the arrow was aiming at 190. And my arrow down was aiming at like $70 to $80. So coming back down to that low point before this huge pump. And over the course of like till November. And then when November comes, I think the real big cycle is going to start where XRP, Litecoin, Bitcoin, all the big projects are going to go parabolic again at the end of the year. And everyone was like, why at the end of the year? The same question why they asked me in March, why I'm saying April it's going to pump. And everyone was like, no, we're still in this crypto spring. And I'm like, no, we're in the bull market already. And I could see it coming. And I remember being at a conference and them saying that. And I just asked them, like, why do you call it crypto spring? Like, have you not realized Theta token went up 250% in like a month and a half? And they're like, yeah, but, and I'm like, did you not realize? And I like named off 5 other tokens that have gone up 100%. And they were like, oh, maybe
more like Raven Coin, Binance.
Yeah.
Some of those coins had like 500 or 5-time gains. So
EVX went on like a 500% gain in 3 days. That was insane. So I was like, no, it feels like we're getting more bullish. And then the 2nd of April, everyone was like, how did you know? And I'm like, I told you guys, like from January, it was going to go in April because it looked like if you analyze the market cycle, it looked like it was coming to the end. And another thing, fundamentally, every group I was in, silent. People were gone. It was a desert. It was deserted. It was desert town. And I'd go to conferences and they'd be pretty much half full. And like all the people there were still big names. It didn't matter. No one was there. It was dead. And that's when I was like, this is where I'm starting to buy again. And everyone's like, why are you buying? It's like $4,000. I'm like, I'm telling you, this is the time to get back in. And, you know, everyone thought I was crazy. And then April 2nd came and people were like, how the fuck did you know? And I'm like, I told you, like, you could have taken a small, like, percentage of your stuff that you'd had on the side and waiting. But then they still had the whole month, right? In May, as we see, and now, you know, June, you know, they say, like, take your profits in May and go away. I feel like this year has taken a different toll to that to saying for sure.
Well, and two, like, I mean, even if you like do technical analysis on stock markets, anything to that effect, I mean, cryptocurrency is its own animal. It doesn't necessarily follow all those same trends and same cycles the way that other things do. There are some similarities, I do agree, but it is its own unique creature, and it's kind of unknown territory. So it's still always a guessing game for people, because there's still people calling for Bitcoin to go down to $2,000-$3,000, which I don't really see Bitcoin going down that low, but you still have people calling for analysis based off of old school techniques and old school analysis and things like that. But
I just call it hopium.
but it's all a guessing game. Nobody really knows exactly what's going to happen.
I mean, we can all agree that this is a very manipulated market. I mean, yesterday they minted $150 million of Tether. And today, just as we all suspected it would, and I got caught in a short because I was like, man, it will still be fine. It will come back down after this pump. And it just went parabolic like 2 hours ago and hit like $8,300 almost. So
yeah,
insane.
Somewhere around 11 o'clock this morning, Eastern Standard Time, I was just waking up and drank some coffee. And by the time I was done with my coffee, that candle was like,
yeah.
It's like, where'd that come from? Because I really was not expecting it to hit over the $8,000 mark, but I didn't know about the Tether minting. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, but even the CTO of Bitfinex was like, no, this is minting. It's not going to be in circulation, but it's just something like some of the stuff, it makes sense by technical analysis that it could have pumped, but it really looked like it should have dumped on the longer time frames, and that's usually more accurate. So it's just, there's some weird stuff that's been happening the last 48 hours. There's been some really odd movements in the market. So these are the times, if you ever feel like emotional or like you feel like something doesn't really make sense, good idea to stay flat, stay out the market. Don't really watch, or if you have Bitcoin and you're holding them, just leave them and just don't watch the market, because the worst thing you can ever do is when you don't know what's going on is take big risks and lose a lot of money. So,
and let your emotions come into play. That's the one thing that the first thing that I learned about when I started trading was you got to be like a ninja and you can't have emotion. Yeah. So it's just because that too many people play by emotions, and if you can stay logical and stay on track, I mean, whenever you do this, you should have an exit plan. You should have an idea of what could go right and what could go wrong, so that way you're covering yourself. But you should know what you're doing and make a good decision and judgment beforehand, and not deviate off of that based off of emotion, which a lot of people unfortunately do. Just like people unfortunately are going to buy in on the hype. There's people that's the reason why Litecoin price is going up right now, is because people are buying in on this hype.
Yep. Yeah, you have a plan to take the emotion out of it. So, and don't get greedy. If you bought Litecoin earlier this year or any other coin and it's more than doubled, and it's money that is making you a little bit nervous, you're constantly watching it. If you've doubled it, there's nothing wrong with taking some profit out. Take half of it out, get whole again. Now you're just playing with free money that you can just move here, and here, and have fun. So you got to have a good strategy, and you got to definitely, if you're getting very emotional about the price, if it's going down, you got too much in it. So
yeah, you're over leveraged. You got these guys on BitMEX when Arthur Hayes came on the other day, and he was like, yeah, the average call on our platform was 22 to 30x, and I was like, what? Like, people are going 20x? Like, you go 20, and this is the thing they don't realize when they do this. Like, I put $1,000 at 20x, and if it goes down, what is it, like $50 or $100? Like, you're liquidated. It's like it can happen so fast, and that happened in one of those candles that we saw today. So that's why BitMEX has $225 million from just trading fees in its insurance fund. Like, that alone is insane. It's just insane. Like, so you have to be really careful when you start playing with leverage, and you can't get wrecked, but you can make a lot of money, but you can get destroyed really fast. And,
I haven't done any leverage trading for that reason exactly. I just try to do some swing trades here and there and things to that effect. But when it comes to doing leverage, I just don't want to play with fire, because when you play with fire, you get burned.
It's a fact, man. It's actually a fact.
So I wanted to ask you guys. So Charlie Lee, he sold all of his Litecoin.
Yeah.
And some people
Supposedly.
Well, yeah, supposedly, but that's what was reported. And some people interpreted that as him giving up on his project, which that's not how I'm taking it.
No.
Two things. Number one, if he truly believed it was going to go back down to 20, which it did, then of course it makes sense for him to do that. But if he actually sold it all, what I've heard is that he didn't want to have a conflict of interest. So if he has sold all his coins, but he's still involved with Litecoin, which I understand he is. I just wanted to see what you guys' thoughts were on that. What you think his role is with Litecoin moving forward, and kind of what the future that you guys see with Litecoin.
I've been particularly fortunate that I've got to be able to meet and hang out with Charlie a couple different times. First time in Vegas last year at World CryptoCon, and then most recently in New York at the Magical Crypto Conference. Charlie actually gave me and Ken Bozak his name badge so we could get food off the vendor truck and get him food as well. So we took pictures with Charlie Lee's badge. He's a cool dude, but what I'll say is it is definitely a conflict of interest thing, because he was getting a lot of slack for pumping up the price because a lot of people fed off of his tweets and things like that. So what he did do is he donated a good portion of his holdings to the Litecoin Foundation, and then he liquidated the rest. Whether he owns any Litecoin or not, he's not, I don't think at this point he will publicly admit, but I would think he still has some of his Litecoin just because it's his creation. But him making that statement, I think, was the best thing he could do, in my opinion, because it does take him away from that whole, you're just pumping your coin, you're feeding on the news, and it just took that element out, because it's not like he's not developing. It's not like he's not part of Litecoin. He's still fully involved. In fact, he's so involved that at World CryptoCon, when before I actually met him, I met him and didn't realize it because I was taking pictures with the guys who are wearing the Bitcoin and Litecoin mascot costumes. I don't know if you've seen those like pictures of people like that, but they're wearing little Bitcoin little outfits and stuff and Litecoin outfits. And it was Halloween night, and I'm wearing a dragon pajama onesie, taking a picture with the Bitcoin and Litecoin, and didn't realize it was Charlie Lee dressed up in the Litecoin suit.
Oh, shit.
So down to earth, all about Litecoin. John Kim, who's his assistant and does a lot of his bookings, and his bodyguard when he's on the road. They're so dedicated to Litecoin. I can't stress enough. Just because Charlie sold his holdings doesn't mean that he's not involved in Litecoin. It's just exactly what you said. It's a conflict of interest.
Yeah, I would agree as well. Like, he even said, he came out and said, like, I'm selling my holdings, and he donated a bunch to Litecoin. Didn't he also donate some of that to charity as well? I heard There was something.
I would imagine, because taxes on selling on those kind of gains, I'm sure, are pretty expensive.
Yeah.
Charlie's by the book. So, by donating, you're technically giving yourself a little bit of a tax break on your gains.
Yeah.
So
it's not a bad idea. Yeah. And then there's also the fact that one of the guys I know knows Charlie at a level to, like, he can just send him a message on Telegram and get an answer. And we were in a group of traders, and everyone was having this question, like, does he ever hold any Litecoin? And one of the guys like, this is enough. And we're like, what? And he just literally messaged Charlie while we're in the group. And he was like, hey, Charlie, do you ever hold any Litecoin? And he was like, well, yeah, I buy some from time to time to spend it, but that's pretty much it. So he literally said that in the group, and someone posted his response from Telegram, like a copied screenshot. And everyone was like, well, that settles it, so he has some, but he buys it when he needs to use it, and he wants to use it to spend money on things like, I have Coinbase Commerce on my company. So if you want to use Litecoin, if you wanted to use our trading system, you could go buy some Litecoin from Coinbase and then pay with Litecoin. So he could actually use the currency, which is why they're actually made, which 90% of people who use cryptocurrencies right now don't even use them. They just hold them, right? So this is something that he's trying to encourage. So I think that
I encourage it too, man. Like,
yeah.
I mentioned Ken Bozak, who's a good friend of mine. I mean, he's off the grid, working, living on crypto. That's his only source of income. He doesn't like fiat. Anytime I'm spending time with him, like at Consensus or other events, sometimes when he needs cash, he has to send somebody crypto so he can get cash because people won't accept crypto. And so while we were in New York, there were issues with loading up your BitPay card. You could use your BitPay card if it already had funds on it, but because of the licensing in New York, you couldn't actually convert your Bitcoin to US dollar. So it can be a pain in the ass, you know, so I appreciate things like the Lightning Network and things like this, and vendors that are trying to create point of sale systems that accept more different cryptocurrencies. But I got to give a shout out to the people who are definitely utilizing this and using it as currency and living on it and showing real use case purposes rather than just a store of value. I mean, I try to do a little bit of both. I definitely hodl, but I do try to spend cryptocurrency as much as possible so I can show people how it works. I might be one of those people who regret some of the Bitcoin I've spent, but in the end, I feel like I'm helping the cause and I'm helping with adoption as much as possible. So it's worth it to me.
Yep. I agree. You know, what was it created for? Like even the guy from Bitcoin Pizza, he was saying like, that's what it was made for. Like he actually put Bitcoin so much further, put cryptocurrency so much further than people realize. They want to laugh at him because he lost $800 million, which that sucks. And I'm sure it's hard to deal with. But at the same time, like that guy put crypto on the map. You could actually buy real stuff with friggin' Bitcoin. And that was the start. And
I think that dude was mining back then too. So, I mean, even though he came off of all those Bitcoin, I'm sure he still has a pretty sweet stack.
Yeah, that could not have been all his coins. Yeah, here's all my coins for some pizza. No,
he's I'm done with Bitcoin.
No, he said he did it more than once too on that 60 Minutes interview. Like he bought more than one pizza with one time with 10,000. So like I don't know, like that's what I've been told. I was like, damn, that sucks. Like, but in the end of the day, like the average person I know that was my friends were mining Bitcoin, like getting 50 a block when it first started, and you know, on their crappy ass Dell computers that they had in their house, you know. And I was like, what the hell are you guys doing? And they're like, oh, we're mining Bitcoin. I was like, what the fuck is Bitcoin? I remember saying like, the fuck is Bitcoin? They're like, oh, it's like this cryptocurrency for this cryptocurrency. I'm like, what the fuck's a cryptocurrency? They're like, oh, it's just money on the internet. And I was like, that sounds so fucking stupid.
Internet money.
Yeah, I'm like, that sounds so fucking stupid.
That was my reaction. I first heard about it. I was listening to the radio or something in 2012, and they brought up Bitcoin. And I thought, first of all, I thought it was a company that was trying to create a digital currency. And I remember thinking, that's stupid. That's never going to, you know, catch on. And it wasn't until the end of 2013 when Bitcoin went up 5,000%, and articles started popping up that, like, holy crap, what the heck is going on here? And long story short, that's when I dived in. I started mining Litecoin at that time, but I wish I had paid attention, just like everybody else who caught on later, sooner.
I just try to tell people, try not to have regrets. You know, we make choices for reasons, and things happen for a reason. So I've heard about Bitcoin a lot longer before I got involved in it. I'm not going to sit here and dwell on I could have had this, because it's just not.
I know.
No regrets.
But the flip side is, you know, it's 2019. You know, I still feel like this is the late 1990s. You know, the internet is just, you know, starting to come together, but it's before MySpace and YouTube and Facebook and all these other things that came later. You know, we're still early. You know, just wait until the STO market, the security token offerings, and that's something where I see Litecoin will have value, because we need a coin that's fast, that can go in and out of all these different type of cryptos, you know. And Bitcoin has its purpose, but there are days where I'm trying to move it where I get frustrated just how long it takes. So I agree, man. Like there's even times right now, like my buddy was like, yo, send me over your EOS wallet, because I'm advising this project called Blabber, and they're like, yeah, man, so we're going to send you your tokens. And I'm like, cool. And I'm like, how are you guys going to send me the tokens? They're like, well, send us your EOS wallet. I'm like, EOS wallet? Like, I have like a bunch of wallets, but I'm like, I have smart EOS. How does it work?
sometimes I'm like, I don't even know how these fucking wallets work. Like, it's still confusing. And, you know, you think about when you were a kid learning how to use the internet, it was so freaking confusing just to like dial up and get online on the freaking computer. So I look at it like the same spot where like everything isn't easy yet. And so it's so freaking early because the average person still is like, yeah, I can't figure this out, you know? And then me as an educator, I'm like, all right, something new to tackle, because like I have to go and figure out like how all these other different kinds of wallets work now, because maybe simple EOS works because I've used it for a bunch of different other ones, but not for an IEO token, which is the first IEO on EOS. So this is going to be interesting. How do I use it? And then I was realizing like there's still so much for me to learn even as an educator, but how cool is it that I can teach people about all these other wallets, but there's still stuff for me to learn too. And that's the stuff that makes me, you know, open my eyes and go, you know what, there is so much this space still needs to develop. It's still in infancy. It is like the start of the internet. It's just, it's confusing. It's not really working properly, everything. It's a little clunky. The UI UX is not always the best yet. Some things are improving.
We're kind of like crash test dummies in a way.
Exactly.
But I think you said it, you know, and I think we got to have a wallet that's going to help consolidate all these other cryptocurrencies into one place. I know there's a few projects out there. There's Pillar. There's a few other ones, and it just needs at least one of them that just gets it right and then takes off. And then it's going to be a lot easier. And I know we wanted to talk about the Facebook coin, but with that being said, that could be one of the coins that could be a good on-ramp into the cryptocurrency world. And then from there, you can jump into Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, EOS, all the other coins that are out there.
True. Yeah. And I mean, when we're talking about Facebook coin, like the way they're doing it. So we have like these stable coins, which aren't stable. We have cool coins like, you know, the DAI, MakerDAO, and these guys have some quite interesting things that they do for sure. I think that, you know, if people don't know how Facebook coin's working, it's kind of really interesting. So yeah, we have US dollar, we have Euro, Canadian dollars, we have Singaporean dollars, Hong Kong dollars, like there's just all this freaking money. And instead of just focusing on the US dollar, which is a shit coin of shit coins, 99.9% of it's worth nothing. Let's be real honest. And we can say that about most currency. Nice.
Inflation is theft.
Nice. So, I mean, we see that, right? And knowing that alone, that, you know, the US dollar really doesn't have anything backing. It's just been printed to the point of no return, to the point where they're bankrupting their own country, and already have bankrupted their own country. And you look at that, and there's other countries that have done the exact same thing. Zimbabwe, Argentina, you know, even Brazil, you could say. Like, there's tons of countries out there, most recently Venezuela. And, you know, we see this. And, you know, how do we actually have a stable coin based off of US dollars? So instead of doing that, Facebook said, you know what, we're going to get a bunch of non-volatile assets like properties or companies that are very like they, you know, stocks, not even know if stocks are what they're actually getting, but gold, silver, things that are just going to hold value and not really lose a ton. And they're going to back it with all these different types of currencies so all the ones I've just mentioned, imagine all those in like one currency, and they kind of back it by that. And that's how the Facebook stable coin is going to work, or GlobalCoin or Libra, which they're going to call it, is going to work. So a very interesting concept of how I'm still reading into like how it actually will work. It's still very new, but the whole idea is that they're calling it GlobalCoin because truly it's not going to be backed by one currency or one property or one place in the world. It's going to be backed by the whole world, which is really interesting. And as we know, Facebook has 1 billion users, whether it's 500 million bots and 500 million people, there's still a lot of people using it.
Right.
And so that's going to help with adoption, because what drove the ICO scam market? Facebook. Like, let's be real. Facebook and Google ads pushed everyone into seeing the same ICO over and over again. And then all of a sudden it was this great ICO that they're talking with their friends because their brain has been brainwashed to think Strombolos, the greatest ICO ever, or whatever it was. And so, you know, that's how Facebook can really generate that. And let's be really honest, most of these companies don't have the money to develop proper technology that makes it easier. When you have Facebook's $1 billion company, they have the money to actually make stuff simpler, make it easier for us to have an easier experience, make it easier for your mom to start using crypto, and really develop something where it does all of that stuff on the back end and then uses crypto. You know, that's what it really needs to be. Okay, I'll stop. I'll let you guys go.
No, I mean, I appreciate you explaining it, man. And I really like the idea that they are using a basket of different commodities, currencies, or whatever the situation might be, because I think that's definitely smart, especially not banking on the US dollar. And what it did remind me of when I first heard it was what the central banking IMF does with the SDR, the special drawing rights, because it's a basket of different fiat currencies that make up the SDR. So it kind of reminded me of that. The one thing that I'm really kind of concerned with is with mainstream adoption, and I definitely think that this has the potential of being able to help out with mainstream adoption. But once we hit that point where we're starting to have that adoption take place, I'm really worried about the idea of centralization versus decentralization, because obviously this is going to be a very centralized project. The other question that I have is, how is this a cryptocurrency? Because that's what I'm being told right now, is that it's a cryptocurrency. Is it mineable? What are the specifics to it? Or is it just a digital currency that they're calling a cryptocurrency?
Well, what they're going to do is have actual master nodes. And I mean, you have to have $10 million to run a master node.
I saw that.
So, I mean, it's going to be basically like decentralized-ish, but for the elite, I guess, because most people won't have the money to own a master node unless they do pooling together.
$10 million lying around. I don't know about you.
I don't know, man. I just get it from this chart right here. It just goes up and I take it out. You know?
Right. Well, I'm hanging out with you.
Yeah, man. Like you just put money in chart and chart goes up and you take money out. Like the whole idea is that, you know, these bigger companies that people kind of already trust, like Amazon and you know, Google, or you know, it could be I don't know, GM or any of these big companies, or even Intel or Samsung, for example, they'll be able to run master nodes and confirm transaction on the blockchain, technically keeping it quite decentralized-ish, because the whole thing is those really rich people like to talk to each other, as we already know from so many different, you know, so many different things that we like to talk about for sure. We see that things are not really what they seem, I guess, as you can put it. And all it would take is like buddy from Samsung, buddy from Google, and just all of them be like, yeah, let's 51 attack the network and fuck over everybody. And they probably could, you know. I haven't seen the whole code or anything. No one has even read the white paper yet, really. But I'm curious to see how they're going to fight something like that happening, like caballing and, you know, making like little, you know, niche mafias and stuff. So, yeah.
And so
Rob,
what about?
I know you've been posting a lot about this on Facebook, Rob. What have you learned about this GlobalCoin, that Facebook, Libra, whatever they're calling it?
To be honest, I'm still learning by the day. In fact, I just posted something on Facebook that it sounds like it's a speculation, you know, because it's not out yet. So there's still, I'm sure, a lot more to the Facebook coin that we don't know yet. But but potentially they might be paying an interest. So if you're staking it or holding a certain amount, I don't know if you know anything about that, Joel. But are they doing staking or something like that?
Oh, it's not really been said. It's just if they're doing nodes, I don't know if they're staking. But you also said, and I've heard things about them potentially giving, if you're holding it, you get some type of, it's not a dividend, obviously, because it's not going to end up being a security. So, I mean, if you're holding it, there must be some type of staking mechanism so you get kickbacks from some of the master. We don't know for sure yet. It's until that we read that white paper, but that's what I assume is going to happen, where they'll have, you know, some type of inflation like EOS has, where you get, in supply, extra in supply for holding the coins. Maybe you hold them with your favorite master node, kind of like how EOS has their, 21. So, they have their block producers, you call them. They have, you could stake with those block producers. Anyone can with EOS. So that's an option. I think that will probably be one of the options for people to do. And if you're talking about $1 billion coin before they even start, if you have $10 million each, I mean, you're going to have, what is that, like 100 block, they'd have like 100 block producers technically. So it's not going to be something small. It's going to be a big project with a lot of different people in a lot of different countries. So I, I don't know how centralized or decentralized it is going to be yet, but I'm really curious to see where they go with it. I do think there's definitely going to be bad to the good. There's not going to be all good with that.
Right.
But, you know, Chris, what do you think about that? Like, do you think that, you know, having things like Facebook Coin, people like Mark Zuckerberg, who are known to be kind of, you know, an evil genius type of person, even though he's a really nice guy and pledging 90% of his funds to like all these really great causes, do you think that's a facade and he's like not really that type of person? Or do you think maybe, you know, he made GlobalCoin because it could help, you know, make other people that are in less fortunate situations have a little bit more? Like,
I mean, I don't know the guy and I don't want to judge him, but I don't
for
see
sure.
him as being a philanthropist. He seems to be all about himself. That whole privacy scandal where information was being sold. I mean, he didn't seem to be remorseful or was saddened by the events. I mean, I think he knew what he was doing when he created Facebook.
Yeah.
There's a lot to Facebook. I believe that there's probably been some government subsidizing that's helped out, and you know they're probably providing information because we provide individually information to Facebook, and that information is collected, added to big data, which is just adding to digital profiles on who we are. It allows for more surveillance. It allows for more just anything. I mean, like people can read your private messages, hack into that stuff. I don't trust it at all. I don't know from a spiritual religious standpoint, like Christians talk about revelation, one world government, one world currency. This has that potential because of it being so big. But what I really hope will take place, whether the project is successful or not, I hope it just really gets people interested more in learning more about Bitcoin, because when they can see the true power of decentralization, hopefully it'll start changing some people's thinking. So if it's a way of getting people into the space, great. But I'm not going to trust at all, period. Even when they make announcements. And I think they're supposed to, from what people are saying, by the end of this month, give some more clarity about the project and what it's doing.
I think it's in like 6 days or something, actually, that they're saying they're going to come out. Now, this is another thing that I want to bring up, because I've been having, I don't know if it's second thoughts or just like, you know, been starting to think that people just don't really give a shit. So when you say, like, we say decentralization, like, we obviously understand what it means, right? But do you think that the way the world works right now, that people will ever give a shit enough about decentralization for it really to have its true impact? And the reason why I say this is because look at China. You have the social credit system. They literally can find anyone in the country within 7 minutes. They can tell you based off what you eat if you have a good score. They can tell by how many beers you drink if you're getting a good score. They completely control all the data. And actually, this whole thing with Huawei that happened, I believe, was more about not letting them have access to Americans' data, because they're taking all this data and they're going to figure out what causes cancer for people. They're going to find out tons of great stuff. But how much privacy do people have in that country? You know, really, truly. And when we look at that and we say, well, everyone's like, oh, decentralization, people seem to not give a shit that apps listen to everything that is on your phone. I will sit on my phone right now with it off, not even actually doing anything, and I'll talk about decentralization, Bitcoin, crypto, or I'll talk about something completely different right now. I could talk about dogs and how I love dogs and dog pets. And did you see that video of the guy who did that?
Mm-mm.
So this guy, he goes online and he's like, I'm going to tell you guys some stuff. So he opens up all these news agency ads and pages, and they're obviously like, you know, all these random ads that are popping up on every single page. So he's like, watch this, guys. Closes down everything, Google, everything. His whole entire computer, everything's shut off. And he's like, watch this, guys. And for 2 minutes, he goes, I like dogs. dogs. I like pets. Pets are great. My favorite thing is a dog. I love dogs. I love dog treats. I love dog beds, beds that are dogs, dogs that are beds. And you know what's really cool? I really, really love when my dog is a Kong, and I like red Kongs and black Kongs, and he just says it for like 5 minutes, not even, maybe a 2-minute span. He then, like, watch this, guys, goes on his computer, starts going to the same websites, 8 out of 10 of them, friggin' dog treats, dog pets, dog beds. He wasn't even like on his actual laptop looking for it. Some algorithm is listening to what we're saying. And I bet you even now that I said dog, if I open this browser right now, dog stuff will pop up because I like dogs and dog treats and dog pets, and dogs are really cool. And, you know, my dog, he was really crazy and scrappy and loved, you know, the Kong and dog beds and lying on pillows. My dog was really cool. I bet you right now, if I go online in a few minutes, I'll actually I'll screen share if there's actual dog advertisements. Because
I believe you, dude. I know how this works.
That's insane. So yeah, getting back to the point. Sorry to interrupt, Chris.
Go ahead,
What
Rob.
about decentralization? What about it? What do you think?
Okay, well, just I think personally that there's a time and a place for centralization and decentralization. But with things like what I feel like the coming of the crash of the US dollar, which is caused because of centralization, those kind of things I think are going to start, people will start waking up to those facts. Like right now, yes, people don't really give a shit about very much. It's very sad. But as long as you got people like us trying to spread the message and educate people about what the differences are, what's going to happen is when centralized models fail and people realize it fails because of the centralization. That's what it's going to take to get people to understand and want decentralization where it's needed. Like in our voting systems, we don't need a centralized voting system. We need a decentralized voting system on a public blockchain so that everybody can see the votes and nothing can be tampered with, and we don't have to worry about those things. But like I said, there is a time and a place for centralization. But when it comes to freedom of the world, when it comes to economic slavery, decentralization is the key to get away from that, in my opinion. And Rob, I'm sorry I interrupted you, man. Where were you kind of going with trying to go?
Well, we've kind of jumped around on a few different topics. But I was going to say, so going back to Facebook, I agree with what you're saying. I believe their coin is going to be something that we're going to hate to like, at least people like us. We're going to hate to like it. But I do like on the pro side that, you know, they're backing it by a basket of, you know, different assets. It's not just tethered to the US dollar, which is what I originally thought. And if you look globally, this is going to help other countries where, you know, banking is an issue or inflation is a lot worse than what it is here in the United States. So there's going to be a big market for it, obviously. And with over 2 billion people, I'm thinking of the Facebook coin as more of an on-ramp into the cryptocurrency world and, you know, having really good exposure by validating the crypto market now that Facebook is getting into it. But you should definitely diversify. You know, depending on exactly what all the details are going to be, if there is some interest attached to it, I'm not against it. You know, I hate and I like Facebook at the same time. You know, but I have to admit, you know, I'm on there every single day. I use it.
I like YouTube, so I feel you.
Yeah, you know, we use these tools, so you know, I don't want to be a hypocrite. So I'm interested in what they're doing. I actually do support what it is that they're doing, and it actually sounds better and better as I get more information. But I completely agree with you, Chris, on this. The decentralization is key. But I also want to make a comment on the data stuff that Joel was talking about. You guys remember flat screen TVs used to be, you know, $5,000-$10,000 depending on the size of it, really expensive. And they're getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper because of our data. They're smart TVs now, and they're selling that information, what we're watching, what our habits are. That's the reason why flat screen TVs are getting so cheap. It's because of our data. They're selling it. And The Economist had a great article a few years ago that now data is more valuable than oil. that is the number one resource that all these companies worldwide are trying to get their hands on is data. And all these devices we're using, they are spying on us, collecting our information, our data. And then it's being sold to third parties. In fact, AT&T, Verizon, these top telecom companies were under a lot of heat, I think about 6 months ago, because it came out everywhere we traveled, they were selling our location and what our habits were to third parties. So, it's good that we're aware of all this, but I do believe we're going to transition into a time where privacy and devices and technology that help protect our privacy are going to be a lot more valued. And it's interesting times we live in.
It's interesting you said that. I actually just interviewed this company called Alperia, just like on Monday. And they have a really interesting concept. They have really big partnerships too. And not to like shill them at all, just to explain, they're actually creating something that, so he created this technology that Google and Facebook and all these guys use that is data collection. But now he's created it, so he's created another thing for like the masses. And he realized like smart watches and smartphones and computers, they all have sensors in them. And so he can track user data. But instead of selling that user data, he's going to actually make all these partnerships, which he has with, for example, Audi, Mercedes, Volkswagen, Intel, like big companies. GM is another one of them, PricewaterhouseCoopers. And what he's going to do is, instead of like just giving your data away, like how Facebook is doing and making shitloads of money for it, he said that an average user a year is worth about $1,000 of data. So each of us, no matter what we do, what they're already not paying for us is $1,000 a year. And it could be more over time, right? So imagine like just doing everything you do every year and you're getting $1,000. Like I would like $1,000 because I'm not getting anything for it. And then you can opt into all these other things like surveys and things like that. That is where we could actually see data go, where you start getting paid for what you do, which is really interesting and much better than a social credit system in my opinion.
I actually know of a cell phone company that's working on that concept. So
nice.
and we're paying what, $60 a month, most people are on their or $100 even. And the telecom companies are not just making money off of our monthly bills to them. They're making a ton of money off of how we're using our phones. It's like what I heard was a $5+ trillion market, the data mining market. It's massive. So we could reach a time where you no longer have a phone bill, and instead you're getting paid monthly, maybe in some type of tokenized crypto based off of the value you provided for that month. And the blockchain would be a way to track that.
Yep.
I mean, and there is a possibility that, Facebook could do something beneficial for their users and maybe reward them or give them the opportunity to take their token in place of selling and providing information to people, allowing the users to be able to possibly be able to monetize their data as well as Facebook being able to profit off of it. I mean, that is a possibility. Because I definitely see us moving into areas like what you're talking about, getting paid for our attention. Because we're with the idea of AI and automation, and the idea that a lot of jobs, like somewhere around 60% of the jobs in the United States or worldwide are repetitious and enough that automation and AI could take over those positions, which would have us have to reevaluate what value is and how we as individuals are going to be able to continue to consume the way we consume without having the income from the type of work that we used to do in the past.
Yeah.
So I think things like Brave browser, where they're paying you for your attention, things like that. I think we're going to get to that point. And not that I want to get into it on this one because we're going long, not that I want to end it right this second, but I'd like to talk to you another time, Joel, like the three of us, regarding that social point system in China, because you're in Thailand, you have a little bit better idea what's going on in the Asian markets and Asia in general. And I have a pretty good idea about that, but a lot of people in the United States have no freaking clue about what we're talking about. And I had
Yeah.
actually, while I was in New York, had heard that the New York Police Department was proposing trying to utilize that technology. So,
Oh yeah, it's already happening. I mean, NSA is already doing it. This people don't know. This is why Snowden is like so hated over there, because he literally came out and he was like, yeah, this shit's actually happening. You're being watched. There's all this really shady stuff happening. Obviously, there's way more stuff that he's released, like CIA agents got killed and like other bad stuff happened. But in the end of the day, like he was trying to expose, like, you're not in this beautiful, cozy place there. Like they know what you're doing, when you're doing it, how you're doing it,
it's
why
like
you're doing it.
1984, the Orwell book.
Yeah.
And like,
It is, and that wasn't a nonfiction. That was a nonfiction book. He was writing it as that's actually going to happen, and with technology, that's easy to happen. I sometimes feel like there's going to get to a point where you remember that movie with Tom Cruise where they like knew he killed someone even though he didn't. I can't remember what the name of it is.
it wasn't Vanilla Sky, was it?
No.
It was. Do you know what it is, Rob?
I know what you're talking about. What is it? Minority Report.
Minority Report, yeah. So like they knew he killed someone before he killed someone, and because they knew he was going to kill that person, they wanted to like take him into custody and basically like try him for murder, and even though he didn't do it. And it's like that kind of stuff that like they'll get to a point where the data is so rich that be based off of your normal day-to-day behaviors. They'll know if you're depressed. They'll know if you're happy. They'll know if there's something wrong with you, if you're going to hurt somebody, if you want to attack someone, if you're going to do something nefarious. And that's what scares me about that social credit system. I've had friends go to China. So this is some real talk here, not just talking about it. One of my friends, Lucas, went to China with my other buddy, Chris, and they were in Shanghai. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, 9 police officers came and took my buddy Lucas and would not let my buddy Chris go with him, and just like put him into like this police like station in a corner and started like questioning him like crazy. And he had like no freaking clue what was going on. And apparently like he looked like some other guy that was a criminal. And so they just like the systems that they have, all the like cameras that they like went off, and then like literally like pinpointed where he was in 7 minutes, took him out, and like they questioned him and figured out that he wasn't the right person, and they let him go. But like, that's scary.
The predictive behavior stuff is scary, because I think I've heard stuff about in Canada where they're actually utilizing that in their police departments. I can't remember which province, but it's insane to think about these kind of things, that the police will take the time to try to use technology to predict something that's going to happen before it happens, and then judge you based off of it.
It's crazy, man. It's something that people think like there's all those people like you're conspiracy, and like even my wife, she lives in Thailand, she's Thai, and like she lived in the States for 8 years, and she's just like, if you don't do anything wrong, what do you have to worry about? And then in China, they think the same way. They're like, well, if you don't do anything wrong, like, what are you worried about? Like, it's just going to keep us all safe and stuff.
What if I want to do something wrong, though, and then don't want to get caught?
So,
or something semi-wrong, I mean, that's the whole idea about freedom. I don't want to be told what I can and can't do. And then the worst thing about something like this, without getting too off track, is things like 5G, Internet of Things, those kind of things combining in with the social point system and things like universal basic income. If you don't follow the rules, if you don't do what you're told, you'll get cut off.
Yeah.
They can cut your house off because everything will be smart at that point. It's like Jetson's world. It'll just lock you out of your own house. You won't have any rights. You'll just be a reject of society. It's
like movies. I mean, people will call you like a conspiracy theorist, but like until it gets there, and then what?
I tell people I'm a conspiracy realist.
Yeah. And I'm not a big conspiracy. People will be like, you talking about conspiracies, like you're not really big into that. And I'm like, well, 9/11 is not a conspiracy. That was pretty obvious, like what happened there. I mean, they've had experts come in and say that. But, JFK, they're like, oh, he just got shot in the head. I'm like, dude, they've had like the best shooters ever try to shoot 3 shots in the same amount of time. No one could do it. So obviously that didn't happen. Simple as that. And that's not conspiracy. It's just looking at the facts and coming up to a realized decision that this is what probably happened. There is another shooter, for example.
It's being logical.
Yeah, it's just logic. And, this is why they don't like this is why, like, look at Cambodia, right? When they had what was it? What's his name? Pol Pot, right? When he came in and he wanted to start at level 0, he wanted to start the world at 0 again. And all that meant is he wanted to kill every single smart person in the country and anyone that didn't listen to him. And that's where the genocide started from, is he was scared that people will get too smart and start questioning you. And that's why I think the whole dumbing down of America stuff is happening, because they don't want people too smart and asking questions all the time and it's saying why and not following what they're told. And, that has, there's good and bad to that too, completely honest. Like, having people do what they're told is not a horrible thing in some ways, but like, if everyone's too smart, then no one wants to do the jobs that maybe are not that fun, and you need people still to clean toilets, and you need still people to do other things. So it's just really an interesting concept to like try to grasp all that and go, what, maybe they are making people dumb. Like, I was a teacher and I left and I was like, we're teaching kids shit. Like, I taught for friggin' 8 years. And I swear to God, I would always go off of the books and stuff that was just normal curriculum and stuff that was different, because I'm like, okay, we're doing business. I'm not teaching you this shit from a book. We're starting a business in school. Let's make you actually earn it, make money in class. Like, you're going to make cookies and you're going to sell them, and that's going to be your business. You make a sheet and balance, and you're going to do taxes. I'm going to make you do taxes. What is that going to give you? When you go in the real world, you actually understand it. But we don't teach kids that way. And that's a huge problem in the world. And one of the coolest things I found when I was teaching my last 1.5 2 years, every single kid would come to me and be like, Mr. Joel, did you see the Bitcoin price today? Oh, it's dropping, Mr. Joel. Oh, it's gone up, Mr. Joel. Because they knew I was super into it and they were getting into it. And that's like when I started realizing, like, whoa, I need to like step away from this classroom and start stepping into the real world and teaching people about this stuff. And I'm actually going to start teaching a course this month at the end of the month, just like the intro to cryptocurrencies, and teach people where it all came from, why it started, the global financial crisis, and, explain why, because no one explains why. Like, cryptocurrency make a lot of money, but like, why is cryptocurrency here? It's really important for people to know that too.
I agree.
Yep, I agree with that. And that's the stuff I'm interested in. We're not taught anything about money in school here, definitely not in the United States. And I'd say most countries don't teach their people the things that they should.
No.
How's money made? Where does it come from? Why do we pay income tax?
Why is it valuable?
Not to us. None. So you got to either go out on your own and figure it out. But most people don't. They just accept that this is the system. And, I'm going to pay 3 or 4 months out of the year, towards the government. And it's going to go towards roads and bridges and schools, but it doesn't. Not your income tax. And so it's an important topic that people should take the time on their own and learn.
Use critical thinking. Thinking and question everything. Like, just because somebody in a suit and tie or somebody who might seem to be important says something doesn't mean that it's true. So
I have something really good to add right now when we're talking about that. So today I'm in a group, and you all know Sparkster, right? Like, super freaking scammy coin. Ended up being really, really off. I even have a meme that I made called Sparkster Connect, and like, it's just, but the whole thing with that is someone came in and was like, fuck Ian Bellina, blah, blah. And I was like, yo, dude, what did that guy do to you? You could have chose some of the good projects that he had, and you could have made a shit ton of money. So why are you angry at him? And he's like, well, some people lost their house money. I said, if you put your house money into ICOs, that was your fucking fault, not anyone else's fault. Who the hell told you to put house money in? No one told you to put in what you can afford to lose. You don't take your life savings and put it into cryptocurrency. That was gambling. That's why you got wrecked. And you should be blaming yourself. And, this idea of people don't take, they don't even look at themselves and think like, what have I done? No one's thinking critically about, I listened to this guy, and because I listened to that guy, I'm going to put in my house money. This is the problem with society now. And I just got off the call right before you guys, and someone was like, you got to talk to this guy, he needs help with this project. And when you've been in this industry, as we all have, you can tell within 5 minutes of talking to someone if it's a scam coin, if it's a project has a use case, like all that stuff. I've got 100 pitches in my life, at least at this point. So I tell this guy, I'm like, hey man, I literally have the notes right beside me. I'm like, hey man, so your company has been around for 10 years. How much revenue did you pull in? I can't tell you that. We're a private company. I'm like, give me a ballpark figure then. I can't tell you that. I'm like, all right, so you have no money coming in. Like, simple as that. So I go, okay, what does your coin do? He's like, well, it collects data. I'm like, on what? On drivers. I'm like, okay. And I'm like, all right, I just had this call with Operia, and he has all these connections to all the big companies. So I'm like, all right, let me ask you some questions. What does this data that they get buy them? He's like, well, they have this messenger app that they can talk to each other and play games on. I'm like, so wait. You guys want to go on Huobi? You guys have a coin that only gives people data. The companies buy the data, give them to the drivers, and the drivers can play games and talk to each other using the data coin. And you think that anyone in the world outside of China or anywhere in the world, even in China, is going to invest in this project? And the guy's like, yeah. And I'm like, and I said, and why? You know what this guy told me? Because they'll make money. And I said, then you're a security. So you don't even know what the fuck you're talking about. And this is the stuff that I know. But I'm telling you, man, there's not people like us everywhere. And there are, I would say, 3 or 4 out of 10 people that would listen to him and go, that's a really good idea. That sounds super cool. Because whoever taught you how to actually analyze that before?
Right.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I had somebody recently send me a website asking my opinion, and they're claiming 15 to 30% a month. And I right away I said this whole thing is a scam. It's a scam. It's a security, number one, so it's illegal in most countries around the world, and unless they're registered, of course, with the SEC and other regulators. But they obviously aren't. And I'm not talking about Cloud Token. That's another one. Where I don't know enough about the technology they claim they have. Maybe it's legitimate, but the marketing, the way that the people are marketing it is 100% a security offering, claiming 10 to 15% a month. And I've been calling that out recently. Now, Joel, I don't know if, as far as the technology side, I want to give them the benefit of the doubt, but do you think
I hear that their app is good? I have one of my buddies, Sven. He's involved in it pretty heavy, and he got to this point now where he's signed so many people up, and he took out his initial investment. Every day he gets paid, and I go, dude, do you really think this AI Jarvis bot is paying you and it's making all these good trades, and you're making all this money, and the Cloud token just keeps going up? And he's like, have you looked at Plus token? I'm like, that also looks kind of really shady, even though it's $100 now. I'm like, sure, some people, and I said to him, like, BitConnect started at how much? And how much did it get up to? I said, he's like, it doesn't matter. I'm like, yeah, because you're asking someone like me, right? And I like the guy, he's a really nice guy, but I said, like, let me just break it down for you from my perspective. You're asking me to invest even just $1,000, which is fine. I have the money to lose, but into a project, then you're going to tell me to tell all my friends to go and invest. So it's an MLM, so you make more money from it. And like, I just told him, like, that concept, I don't even agree with. Like, maybe it is legit and they're just an MLM and they're going to do it that way. But I said, like, I don't trust, even though they can, he's like, you can have a call with the founders. I'll give you a call with them. You can sit down with them. I said, that's fine. But I just don't trust MLMs. Like, they always fail. They pretty much.
I mean, the founders of USI Tech, I mean, these guys went, did things, and people got to meet them. Some of the people involved in Tradecoin Club, I mean, they were active. So it's just, I think it's sad when somebody preys upon other people to make money. And, obviously dude's smart and got his initial investment back, but now all the money he's collecting in, to me, is like blood money. Like, does he really feel good about himself by profiting off of somebody else's potential loss?
I don't even know if he believes it's a potential loss. That's the thing. Like, I think he's actually convinced by these guys that it's real, and he actually has been in the space for a really long time. So it's like, it's not like he's an idiot. And this is why I was like, okay. And then I talked to some other guys that I know, and they were just like, we don't know. It might be a scam, but we just put $1,000 in, and the same like him. Now they're getting paid every day. And I'm like, that's awesome, right? Like, great for you guys. Like, cool. You're making like $500 a day right now, but don't you think that's kind of weird? I just look at it
I
like,
got morals, man. I'd rather not make money than do stuff like that. That's just my deal.
Same, and yeah, it's just not for me.
So far, the track record is these things always eventually have an end, and
yes,
going to be losers. And so, great if you were in early, but someone, and if you're promoting this, it's one thing if you just privately just want to put $1,000 into it and you don't share it with another person, but those that are actually promoting this without, I guess, any regard that this could end up hurting many other people down the road, that's the problem. And if you were around in 2017 and you saw BitConnect and USI Tech and Trade Coin Club and all these other companies come and take everybody's money and leave, you've got no excuse to still be in 2019 promoting these type of things. So yeah, I have a few people that are convinced the technology is legitimate. I'm more concerned about it being promoted as a security. I mean, they're claiming it's not a security. It is. It is. Anytime
if you're offering a return on your investment.
Yeah, to trade on your behalf with a promise, even though if they don't guarantee it, it's still being advertised 10 to 15%. It's a security. Regardless.
I mean, it is possible to get 10 to 15% if you have a great algorithm, but you can't tell me every single month you're going to get 10 to 15. I'm a trader. Like, I have months where I go down.
That. Yeah, you cannot bank on that, period.
Every single month? No.
I go down some months. That's called drawdown. It's just part of a strategy. And even if you use AI, it's still going to happen. So, I saw that, like, he showed me videos of it actually working. And I'm like, that's great. Like, it could be a good algo, but, like, you can't tell people, like, you're going to make X amount of profit every month. Like, it's just not something you can do. Even me, like, I would never promise people profit. Like, have people made like 30,000 to turn into 48? Yeah, one guy did on our platform. He loved it. So that's great. But at the same time, the same month, because people set their own settings, so we don't have to tell them what to do because we don't want the responsibility of them saying we traded for them. We just give them the idea and they can go with it or not. It's up to them. And, if they decide to go with it, great. But if they, if a couple calls go the wrong way, I mean, they can't look and go, well, you made me do it. It's like, no, you did it. It was up to you to do whatever you want. You set your settings. Like, we can guide you and tell you what we do. But, ultimately people are emotional beings. And that's why we created our whole system, is take that emotional side out of trading. Like, if you just have something trading for you in the background, great. But don't expect things to always go up, because if they do, they generally are not real. It's just not possible.
In the real world, you're going to have a period of time where it is doing well, and then you're going to have, like last year, where when the market's going down as much as it did in 2018, it's very difficult to have a month where every month at least where it's profitable on a downward trend. And so it should be a red flag if every single month, this is fine. The market dropped 70, 80%, but we're still making 10, 15%. No, there's something wrong with that. But I played with some algorithms. I've set some up on my own private servers. I had the best month ever was December 2017. I had something that was trading in my Binance account, and it went up 42% in a 12-day period. But that was because the market, Bitcoin went from, what it was like 12,000 to 19,000 within that time frame. That was the reason. But then afterwards, when it started to dip, it went sideways, and then it started to lose a bit, and then I just pulled out. That's the real world. But if it's consistently hitting 10, 15%, you don't see the trades. Yeah, it's not
wrong. Yeah, it's
something wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. It has to be like an API where it's like you can go in your Binance account and be like, oh, so these are all the trades I made. These are the winners. These are the losers. At the end of the month, I made X. That should be how it is. Like, that's the real way to do it. And like, anyone who's promising, give me money and I'll make more money, you run the other way. Don't even waste your time.
The only automated trading I trust is if it is something like what you created, Joel, that you can hook up to your own Binance account. You can see exactly how it's configured. You can change the configuration.
It's up to you.
You're in full control, and it's your own Binance account, and it's your own coins in that account.
Yeah, you can pull it out. I don't have access to it. Nothing. Like, that's the way when we started, we thought about the system. It was like, people need a way to have set a gain and have a stop loss. And on Binance, you literally can't. And they want profit trailing, and they want sometimes in some markets a dynamic stop. So if they have a stop loss, it will move up. And if the market falls like it did today because Bitcoin jumped, then it will stop out for you in a smaller loss than what you have. So that works and doesn't work for some people as well. But it gives them the option to do all four things and profit trailing at the same time, so they can, if they hit gain and they put 5-8%, it can trail it and make it go up until it falls down. So we wanted to give people that. And then also it's an easy user interface. So just like you can log in the internet. Okay, cool. You go on the website. It's all there in front of your face. It's super transparent. All the signals are there, good ones and bad. Like, we called Zilko just like 2 days ago, and it was looking like it's going to roar, and it freaking just went right down. So we lost 10% on that trade, and it was like, hey guys, like, sorry, that happens. Like, you look at Everex, and we made 42% for them, or OAX, we made 25% in a few days, and we're like, that was made up for it, like if you had a few bad calls, it doesn't matter. But really, trading is just a mindset game. Like, and it's really hard for most people. I think average person, it's like when I played sports, I tell them it's 90% mental. 10% is actual the knowledge that you have. The mental part is watching a trade go down 10% and then watching it go back up 15% and not selling anywhere in between. That's the hard part.
Right. I agree.
Just like
it's a pain like trying to do the trading thing, man. It could because I've definitely made some really bad moves. I made some good moves.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
Just
fun of it.
I gotta kind of wrap things up here shortly.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you guys want to cover, or?
No, maybe you guys can think of BTC's been really on a weird uppy, downy, barty thing going on. Curious what you guys think where Bitcoin might be going in the next couple months. Now, I can tell you my predictions of where I think it's going to probably go, but I'm curious to hear yours first.
What do you think, Rob?
Sure. At this point, because I've heard so many different perspectives from many different people. Some people think, it'll pass 10,000 this year. Some think it'll drop back down to 4,000. I do feel like at this moment, we're probably at a high, and we're due for a correction of 20, 30, 40%, something like that. I think that would be reasonable. And, with considering how much it's risen since the beginning of the year, I hate to use the word healthy, but it's logical. I think that we're close to another correction.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of done speculating, at least right now, what I think the high is going to be. I think next year, as we get closer to the halving in May, same thing with Litecoin, as the first quarter all the way up till May next year is going to be a nice bull run, and maybe starting at the end of this year for that. But between now and then, I think it's got to go back down. I don't know what's going to be 4,000 or 5,000, but it's lower than what it is now in the short term.
Right. What do you think, Chris?
From what I can tell, I know that there was a gap, I think, from the CME futures, and I believe that we'll first go back and retest that level, which I think is like around that $7,200 price. And then I see it kind of going around the 62. I see a lot of support around the 62 area. It's a possibility in the next couple of months it could go down to like the 57, maybe 55 mark, but I don't really see it go below like 55 in my opinion. As far as speculation, I would like to see us by the end of the year hit back at all-time highs, but I'm not sure if it's going to be that soon. I believe that we'll see the altcoins running really heavily. Q4 always does well with cryptocurrency, and you mentioned Ripple. Ripple's obviously going to be a good buy because it's going to pump like hell, and the corporation is going to sell their tokens and they're going to profit like they do every Q4. So, but I don't know if we're going to see that all-time high with Bitcoin, but I definitely see us right now, even though we're up today, I still see us on a downtrend, in my opinion, and I see us going down to fill that CME gap, and then I see us going down to test the actual support and resistance levels, which I would think 6,200 would be that next mark.
What I've been noticing, like, we keep having like this the volume kind of slowly decreasing, and the price keeps going up just in the most recent, last 10 days, ever since we had that nice big huge drop. And I just feel like it almost looks like a head and shoulders on the pattern on the daily. And there's this other thing that I keep noticing is, when are we going to drop? So I think Litecoin, when it starts to come back down after that 40 days before Halvening, I think we're going to see it come down then. And I'm not trying to make a prediction, but based off technical analysis, there's a couple zones to look at. And if you look at the Ichimoku cloud, there's a really strong support on the Kujin, which is the trailing line. It's basically like where the buyers are, right? So there's a nice strong support in the Kujin right there. And if it goes beyond that support, we have the cloud as the second support. And I think it'll be somewhere in that 64 to 6,800 range, which will sit there, and that will probably be our low. And if you look from the top, 6,400 is about 30%. So I think that would actually be a very good space for it. But if you look at Fib as well, Fibonacci, you can also see it come down to that 5,800 range, which is 35%. So those are definite zones I would keep my eye on if I'm someone looking to get into trading or into crypto right now and buying Bitcoin or Litecoin. You might want to just wait it out a little longer, because in summertime, generally people don't trade as much. They go to the beach, they spend time with their family, their kids are home. So, keep that in mind that, it could happen, and crypto does its own thing. King of corn, Bitcoin's corn. It does whatever it wants to do. But, it's something to keep in mind, that look at your divergence in volume. If volume keeps falling and price is rising on a daily chart, it generally means that we're going to come down, because volume and price have to go up for it to be a good thing, or volume and price have to go down for it to be a good thing. But when they diverge, divergence is a bad thing. And something that most people have no idea when they're looking at a chart. But if you look at a chart without any of those cool indicators and stuff, you'll have volume and you'll have coin and you'll have price action, right? And when you see the price go up and the volume start to taper off and go down, it's a really easy indicator we'll probably start to see a dip some point soon. I'm not really seeing it yet with Litecoin. I think that Litecoin has a lot of way to go up. But at the same time, during this whole conversation, Litecoin's dropped about 4%. So it might be having a little bit of a
It's like around 136-ish.
It's having a cool off period, I think. And that's a good thing, because if it is going to do that next rise, it's got to come down like 5, 6%, 8%. And then it's going to swoop and have this nice, last parabolic movement, which I'll call it the FOMO wave, is going to happen, where, when we have that happen, it'll go into maybe into the first week of July, and then that's it. That's pretty much it. By my birthday on the 26th of June, that should be the last days of Litecoin pushing up. And I could be wrong, but looking at past halvenings on all the different charts, you can actually see some correlation there. It's like everyone sees the FOMO waves come, the people that are smart investors take profit, and then the newbies continue to buy, and then that's how you get wrecked. So if you're a newbie and you're watching this, keep that in mind. The most important part when you trade, if you are trading or holding, is take profit. The thing that anyone who was in 2017 can tell you is, if you don't take profit, that's a really horrible situation. Now, this isn't financial advice. This is just something that could sound like it, okay? But I'm just trying to give you guys a little insight on what people do. And, if you do what everyone tells you to do, that's not a good thing. But watch charts and start to just look and educate yourself, so that you can start seeing when maybe it's a good time for yourself to take profit. Personally, I'm just giving you what I would do, and I could be completely wrong. So keep that in mind as well, too.
That's why I say what we talk about is not financial advice. It's literally just kind of telling a story about what we do, and whether you think that what we say sounds smart, or you agree with what we say or disagree, it's just us telling you what we do. So nothing's financial advice.
Just like if I said Operia looks like a really cool project, because I didn't get paid for that interview. I just think it's really a cool project, and I was completely unsponsored. So I was looking at that project because I thought it was really interesting, and the partnerships were there. That's something you might look at and go, oh, but then they had all these IEOs on crappy exchanges. That's because they don't understand crypto. They understand business. They make money already. They're revenue positive, So at that point, that's a good concept, but maybe they weren't smart at the crypto side, so you haven't heard of them and stuff. But those are the types of things that I like to look for. Now, that doesn't mean go out and buy on their IEO that they're having right now. No, don't go do that just based on that. Do your own research, right? Get your education on. And that's the most sound advice you'll ever get from anyone is don't listen to people. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to Rob. Don't listen to Chris. Okay. Listen to what you read, what you see. And my famous line that I like to use is listen with your eyes. Don't even listen with your ears. People get really influenced easily. You look with your eyes and read into what's actually happening with your eyes. See what's happening and make your decision, because that's the most important thing. If people told you, hey, institutions are dumping, don't just believe them, okay? Look with your eyes and go, but they actually are spending money on crypto. Oh, no, they're not. So that's some really important things to keep in mind. But yeah, that's it. I'm done for now.
So you guys ready to wrap this thing up?
Let's wrap it up, man.
Now, what I do want to say is, when me and Rob talked about doing this before, I like the energy, and I definitely like, the three of us kind of doing our little three amigos thing here. So
yeah, man.
If you want to continue doing this with all of us,
I'm down.
Let's just try to coordinate it and just keep it going. And
For sure.
I appreciate everybody for taking the time to watch this. If you've gotten through this whole thing, hopefully you've learned something. I think we've dropped a lot of truth bombs and shared a lot of really good knowledge.
Absolutely.
We all have our own individual YouTube channel. We're coming together as a way to bring dialogue and promote each other. So I'm going to have links down below. I know you guys will have links down below on your site. So if you're not already subscribed to all of our channels, please check us out. Give that thumbs up to this video. Rob, is there anything you want to say before we bounce?
No, I just think, this was a great video we did, and I'm looking forward to making the next one.
Yeah, same here. Same here. Thanks, guys. You can check me out on Athena Education. We'll be here, and, you'll see also on my channel, if you guys are watching on my channel, all the links for Rob and Chris. And, do follow everyone. We're all working really hard in this industry. We're not noobs. We're not coming, FOMO buying and stuff. We're guys who've been through the hardships. Some of us through more than one of hardships. I think all of us actually have been through more than one huge entire crash cycle, Bitcoin's dead a few times type of deal. And so we actually understand it, and you can, bank on us for knowledge. Watch our videos. Maybe we'll do a live feed sometime where you guys can actually ask questions. That would be pretty cool. And, be more involved. I think the most important thing for all of you that I learned when I started is, like, someone said, why are you not doing stuff? Why aren't you doing anything? You're just standing there and being a teacher. Like, why don't you get involved in the industry? So there's no reason why any of you can't do that. I was sitting in my classroom one day when I first started, and I literally was like, I'm gonna make a video about crypto. And I just started. And if you guys are trying to think of, like, how do you get involved, just start. Like, if you don't know shit about Bitcoin or anything, or a little bit, you can always read and learn more. And there's great resources all over the internet. So I implore all of you guys that are watching to just get involved. And if it's 5 minutes a day, that's fine. Just learn a little bit of every day and, get your knowledge up, because we're here, guys like us, to help you. And we want to make the space better. And it's not about just becoming baller rich and getting Lamborghinis and stuff. So yeah, I'll leave it at that. Have a good one.
I do want to say one thing. If you like this video, then let us know in the comments. And if there's certain topics you want us to talk about, just let us know. And I'll pass it on to Chris to close us out.
Cool. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for checking us out. Please check out all of our channels. Appreciate you taking the time to view us. Give that thumbs up. And as always, I encourage everybody to be the change by practicing change.
Peace.